The latest images coming out of northern Luzon are quietly revealing, and they say more than any press release ever could. An MD-520MG light attack helicopter sits on a rough forward strip, rotors ticking, fuel flowing, crew alert. No ceremony, no spectacle, just speed, readiness, and intent. The question that matters is simple. How do you fight an enemy you cannot pin down in terrain that refuses to cooperate? This is not a conventional battlefield. Northern Luzon's counterinsurgency fight is shaped by steep mountains, dense vegetation, narrow trails, and communities that sit uncomfortably close to areas of contact. Armed groups here do not hold ground. They move, disappear, and reappear hours later in a different valley. In that kind of war, heavy firepower alone means little. What matters is who can see first, move fastest, and strike with precision before the window closes. That is where air power stops being a luxury and becomes a necessity. The MD-520MG has earned its reputation in this space. Lightweight, agile, and able to operate close to the fight, it bridges the gap between intelligence and action. When ground units make contact or track movement through jungle corridors, the helicopter is already overhead, providing armed reconnaissance, overwatch, or immediate close air support. Field refueling during northern Luzon operations is not just a logistical detail, it is a signal. It means the aircraft is staying in the battle space, compressing time, and denying insurgents the breathing room they rely on. Look beyond the Philippines and the pattern is familiar. Colombia relied heavily on light helicopters during its long counterinsurgency campaign, using them to chase mobile guerrilla units through jungles and mountains. Indonesia employs similar platforms for rapid response in its own difficult terrain.
Even the United States, in Afghanistan's early years,
leaned on light, responsive air assets to support troops in remote valleys where roads meant ambush and delays meant casualties. Different countries, different conflicts, but the same lesson keeps resurfacing. In irregular warfare, mobility beats mass. What makes the MD-520MG particularly relevant in northern Luzon is not raw firepower, it is presence. The constant hum overhead changes insurgent behavior, reassures ground forces, and shortens the distance between detection and action. For the armed forces of the Philippines, this is air power used the old-school way. Close to the ground, close to the soldier, and relentlessly focused on endurance rather than show. In a fight where minutes matter and terrain favors the elusive, that kind of aviation support does not just assist operations, it shapes the outcome.
Northern Luzon is not just a place on the map, it is a terrain that actively shapes how wars are fought. The moment operations move north of the lowlands, geography takes control. The Cordillera mountain range rises in steep folds of rock, forest, and narrow passes, while the Sierra Madre stretches like a natural wall along the eastern flank. Dense jungle canopy limits visibility, valleys funnel movement into predictable routes, and road networks thin out fast. For ground units, every kilometer is slow, exposed, and physically demanding, exactly the kind of environment irregular armed groups are built to exploit. This terrain creates a tactical imbalance that insurgents have long understood. Small units can move lightly along mountain trails, blend into forest cover, and reposition before security forces can react. Ground convoys, on the other hand, are forced onto narrow roads and choke points, where speed drops and vulnerability rises. Ambush does not require overwhelming firepower here, just timing, concealment, and an escape route uphill. In northern Luzon, predictability is dangerous, and static presence is an invitation to be outmaneuvered. Against this backdrop, the mission is not about sweeping occupation or holding large swaths of ground. The objective is far more deliberate. Neutralize remaining armed elements without allowing them the space to regenerate. That means breaking their freedom of movement, disrupting logistics corridors that run through mountains and villages, and preventing small cells from linking up into larger formations.
Just as critical is shielding civilian communities and infrastructure, because in counterinsurgency, security is measured not by territory taken, but by daily normalcy restored. This is why the operational model in northern Luzon emphasizes sustained pressure without permanent mass deployment. Large, static camps are costly, visible, and inflexible. Instead, the goal is persistent presence, enough to deny insurgents momentum, but agile enough to shift focus as the situation evolves. For the armed forces of the Philippines, this approach reflects hard-earned lessons. Success in mountainous counterinsurgency does not come from force alone, but from mobility, endurance, and the ability to respond faster than the terrain allows the enemy to disappear. Northern Luzon is a contest between geography and adaptability. The side that masters movement across mountains, jungles, and time itself sets the tempo. And in this kind of fight, every operational choice is ultimately an answer to one unforgiving question: who can stay present without becoming predictable? At first glance, the MD-520MG does not look intimidating, and that is precisely the point. In counterinsurgency warfare, intimidation is less useful than responsiveness. This helicopter was never designed to dominate a conventional battlefield filled with tanks and air defenses. It was designed to live close to the ground, react fast, and stay where the fight actually happens. In places like northern Luzon, that design logic turns into a real operational advantage. Technically, the MD-520MG, an armed variant of the MD-500 Defender family, is built around simplicity and speed. With a crew of 1 or 2, it minimizes coordination overhead while maximizing reaction time. A top speed of roughly 132 knots, about 244 kilometers per hour, allows it to sprint between valleys and ridgelines faster than ground units can reposition. Firepower is modular rather than excessive, and again, that is deliberate. The platform can be fitted with 7.62mm machine gun pods for suppressive fire, or 70mm rocket pods for precise strikes against fleeting targets. The hardpoints are configurable, allowing mission-specific loadouts instead of a one-size-fits-all approach. In counterinsurgency, that flexibility matters more than sheer destructive capacity. The goal is not area devastation, it is controlled force applied at exactly the right moment. The design philosophy behind the MD-520MG reads like a checklist for mountainous internal security operations. High agility allows it to weave through valleys and ridgelines. Low-altitude maneuverability lets it stay under cloud cover and visually acquire targets that would be invisible from higher-flying platforms. Its compact size makes it suitable for operations in confined terrain and forward areas where larger helicopters would struggle, or simply be too expensive to justify constant use. Cost is the quiet enabler in this equation. Compared to heavier attack helicopters, the MD-520MG is significantly cheaper to operate and maintain. That translates into more sorties, more presence, and less hesitation to keep aircraft in the air. For the Philippine Air Force, this matters because counterinsurgency is not won in single dramatic strikes. It is won through repetition, day after day of patrols, overwatch, and rapid response that slowly compress the enemy's options. The MD-520MG embodies an old but proven idea. In irregular warfare, the most valuable aircraft is not the most powerful one. It is the one that shows up fast, stays long enough, and can do so again tomorrow. The MD-520MG is not a new arrival in Philippine skies. It is a veteran. First inducted into service in the early 1990s, the platform has quietly accumulated decades of operational experience, with roughly 24 units acquired over time. While flashier aircraft have come and gone, the MD-520MG stayed. And it stayed for one reason: it kept working.
In an internal security fight defined by endurance rather than headlines, reliability mattered more than novelty. From the outset, the helicopter became deeply embedded in counterinsurgency operations across the archipelago. It flew extensively against communist insurgent groups in Luzon and the Visayas, and later against extremist elements in the central and southern Philippines. These were not clean, linear campaigns. They were messy, intelligence-driven pursuits across jungles, hills, and populated areas, exactly the environments where a light, responsive attack helicopter proved its worth. Over time, the MD-520MG earned trust not just as a weapons platform, but as a constant companion to troops on the ground. Its operational flexibility showed most clearly during complex urban and jungle operations. In dense terrain, the MD-520MG provided immediate rocket and gunfire support when troops made contact, often within minutes of a call for help. In jungle pursuits, it served as airborne overwatch, tracking movement, marking targets, and discouraging regrouping attempts. During urban crises, its precision and agility allowed it to support ground forces without the excessive collateral risk associated with heavier platforms. For soldiers advancing street by street or ridge by ridge, that overhead presence was not abstract, it was personal. What is striking is that the platform has not faded into irrelevance with age. Instead, it has been deliberately sustained and reactivated within the 15th Strike Wing of the Philippine Air Force to reinforce rapid air support capabilities. This decision reflects institutional memory. Pilots know the aircraft. Ground commanders understand what it can and cannot do. Maintenance crews are familiar with its quirks. In operational terms, that familiarity reduces friction, shortens response times, and keeps aircraft mission ready. Newer platforms may offer greater payloads or advanced sensors, but the MD-520MG continues to fill a niche that remains stubbornly relevant. It is reliable, quick to deploy, and suited to the kind of missions that still dominate internal security operations. In counterinsurgency, longevity is not about resisting change. It is about proving, again and again, that a platform fits the fight. By that measure, the MD-520MG has already made its case. Mid-operation helicopter refueling sounds like a technical footnote, but in counterinsurgency warfare, it is a strategic multiplier. The difference between an aircraft that must return to a distant base and one that can refuel forward is the difference between presence and absence at the exact moment troops need support. In northern Luzon's terrain, time is not measured in minutes. It is measured in windows of opportunity that close fast. Forward, or mid-operation refueling, fundamentally reshapes how air power is used. By extending time on station, MD-520MG helicopters are no longer constrained by fuel clocks that force early disengagement. Instead of breaking contact to fly back to main air bases, crews can stay in the battle space, circling above patrols, tracking movement, and waiting for the next call. This persistence matters because insurgent engagements rarely unfold on a schedule. They escalate, pause, and reignite without warning. Operationally, this capability allows helicopters to support ground units operating deep inside mountainous interiors, where road access is limited or non-existent. A single sortie cycle can now cover multiple engagements across different valleys, rather than one contact followed by a mandatory withdrawal. Response time shrinks dramatically. When troops encounter resistance or pursue fleeting targets, the aircraft is already nearby, not racing back from dozens or hundreds of kilometers away. Northern Luzon offers a clear, practical example. MD-520MGs operating in the region can refuel at forward locations or secured zones closer to the operational area, rather than returning to major bases. This enables sustained overwatch of ground patrols that may be several hours movement from the nearest permanent installation. For soldiers on the ground, that overhead presence is not theoretical. It means rapid reaction if contact occurs, reassurance during long movements, and immediate fire support if a pursuit turns hostile. In counterinsurgency, speed and proximity matter more than scale. And this is where the MD-520MG consistently proves its value. Its primary role is direct combat support, operating close to ground forces where the margin for delay is razor thin. In close air support missions, the helicopter provides suppressive fire that allows troops to maneuver through exposed terrain and apply pressure without becoming fixed in place. When insurgent positions are positively identified, its rockets and gunfire enable precise, proportionate strikes, aligned with the realities of operating near civilian areas. Equally important is its armed reconnaissance role. Flying low and slow, the MD-520MG helps locate insurgent camps, movement routes, and jungle hideouts that would otherwise remain invisible from the ground. This reconnaissance is not passive. It shortens the kill chain. Intelligence becomes action in minutes, not hours. And when troops unexpectedly encounter resistance, the platform's rapid response role kicks in. Immediate air support overhead, often before insurgents can disengage and melt back into the terrain. The MD-520MG's advantages start with its physical footprint. Smaller than heavier attack helicopters, it is inherently better suited for northern Luzon's narrow valleys, steep slopes, and tree-covered terrain. Where larger platforms are constrained by space, risk, or cost, the MD-520MG can maneuver confidently, hugging contours, masking behind ridgelines, and adapting to rapidly changing ground situations. Speed and responsiveness amplify this agility. With cruise speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour, the aircraft can reposition across multiple valleys in short order. Just as crucial, it can be launched quickly. In counterinsurgency, that responsiveness often determines whether contact becomes a decisive engagement or a missed opportunity. The platform also integrates smoothly into joint operations. It operates in close coordination with Army ground units, intelligence and surveillance assets, and fixed-wing aircraft, providing broader area coverage. This layered approach, ground intelligence, airborne reconnaissance, and immediate strike capability, creates a system where each element reinforces the other rather than operating in isolation. From a strategic perspective, the MD-520MG delivers a clear force multiplier effect. A relatively small number of helicopters dramatically increases the effectiveness, reach, and survivability of ground forces operating in difficult terrain. This impact is felt directly at the unit level. Consistent air cover improves troop morale, especially during extended patrols in hostile and remote environments. Deterrence is another quiet but meaningful outcome. Persistent air presence complicates insurgent planning cycles. Movement becomes riskier, regrouping harder, and logistics more exposed. The visibility of helicopter operations also carries strategic messaging value. For the public, it signals government resolve and reinforces confidence in the security forces' ability to operate effectively in challenging conditions. For adversaries, it demonstrates readiness and reach. Importantly, this visibility fits into a broader national narrative, one that emphasizes modernization, readiness, and mobility over sheer troop numbers. As one official style assessment would reasonably frame it, our Rotary-Wing assets, particularly light attack helicopters like the MD-520MG, remain essential for rapid, precise support to ground forces operating in difficult terrain. The MD-520MG's role in northern Luzon shows a larger truth about modern internal security operations. Supported by forward and mid-operation refueling, these helicopters extend air support continuity and deny insurgents the time and space they depend on. Continued training, disciplined maintenance, and tight integration with ground units have kept the platform operationally relevant despite its age. Looking ahead, as long as internal security threats persist in complex terrain, agile light attack helicopters will remain a critical layer in the Philippines' defense posture. For the Philippine Air Force, the MD-520MG is not a stopgap. It is a proven tool, refined by experience, and still central to how counterinsurgency is fought today.
If you found this analysis valuable, share your perspective in the comments. Your insights help deepen the conversation and sharpen our understanding of evolving regional dynamics. Thank you, and we will see you soon in our next geopolitical discussion.